Hey, everyone, and welcome back to the Rise and Recreate podcast, a place where we hear stories of reinvention, strength, resilience, courage, and we realize we all have the power to recreate our lives whenever the heck we want. I'm your host, Raechel Shannie, and today I'm joined by Crystal, a former feral nomad who has overcome the many obstacles life has thrown her way and found peace in the great outdoors. Crystal, thank you so much for being open to share your story with us today. I'd love for you to tell us a bit about yourself and where you're currently at in life.
Sure. I am a 36-year-old divorced woman that has 0 children, and I'm, like, having the best time of my life.
Same, 36,
Yeah.
divorced, no children.
Yes. But it took me a while to get here, so but, yeah, I am an engineer, by career, also a big nerd, so you're gonna hear some of that come out probably in this podcast. And I fell in love with outdoors as an adult, and yeah, so last year I quit my job, and that I had the same job for 11 years, and I converted a suburban to live in, so I had solar panels with a fridge in it, and I had a full-size mattress that my dog and I shared. His name is Carlos. And, yeah, we traveled around the US, last year and mostly did, like, hiking and just being in nature, doing some paddleboarding, all kinds of, you know, nature bathing. So, yeah.
Yes. Well, I'm sure there was a lot of life that happened prior to that and a lot of decisions that led you up to the point to quitting your job and hitting the road. So, looking back, throughout your journey, can you remember maybe one of the first pivotal times in your life where you decided to take back control and change things up?
Sure, I guess, like so as a child, I had a narcissistic parent, and that led me to be a people pleaser where I was managing their emotions. So I was very in tune with what other people felt, but not really knowing who I was. And I excelled in school. So I kept doing, the nerdy stuff and ended up in college with the same plan that a lot of people have, which is I'm going to be a doctor.
Mhm.
And that was kind of like the path set before me to do this thing that's I think a lot of people think is the most prestigious um, aspirations for young adult. So I started college and I thought all of the pre-med courses were boring, but I was really all about my calculus class. So I just kept taking calculus courses and ended up yeah, getting a degree in chemical engineering. I got to have a wonderful career, but I think that that really did set the path for me to lean into who I was and what I'm passionate about, which is definitely math and science. So I guess that would be like the first pivot I made of a few. So
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like the people pleasing tendencies is very strong, mostly among, men, of course, but typically a lot of times among women. And the little bit of, chasing a huge aspiration so you can be worthy of other people's, validation is huge.
yeah.
So during this time, when you're mostly focused on, all of these math classes, what was going through your mind when you decided to pivot from becoming a doctor?
I just wanted to use my brain the in an exciting way, I guess, and I just felt, like, driven towards engineering. I It was what felt right to me. I don't have, like I feel like it's a not a
Yeah.
good answer, but,
No, that's great. You
it
you
was
ta
like
you finally
listening to
tapped into
myself. Yeah.
yourself. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, right. So after years of people pleasing, you're like, wait a second, what is it that Crystal wants? What do I actually want versus all of these opinions that other people have that I should lead my life a certain way. So you said you were at your last job, the chemical engineering job, for 11 years, and then you decided to quit that. How did you come to that decision?
So I don't think I would have made that decision had it not been for my a different pivot before that, which is getting a divorce. So
Mhm.
I guess I'll talk a little bit about that. So I was married for 8 years and from the outside, I got married at 24, fell into this job, this nice career path, but I was actually, like, really unhappy, and I had a lot of anxiety, and I did have some red flags about the man that I married, but we got married anyway, and then, about 4 months after our wedding, I was in a bad car accident, and so that kind of shifted the power dynamics between us,
Mhm.
and over the next 5 years, I really struggled with my mental health. So, um, and a lot of it was tied to this like increasing control and what became like an abusive relationship. So, uh, it was very difficult for me to want to leave that. And I felt compelled that it doesn't matter what someone does. Like I made this promise to this person that I would be with them no matter what, right? And
Mhm.
so, basically, I was caught up in the cycle of abuse, make up, have a happy part, and then the decline and all the shitty part.
Mhm.
And so I had tried to leave him a few times, but in this span of time, my mental health got so bad that I ended up being hospitalized, I think a total of 6 times. Um, and and it I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and PTSD, and I had to crawl my way back to just being like able to do normal things on a daily basis. So that was kind of a very tumultuous time in my life. And what helped me make that pivot to decide to actually leave him for real this time, was I told myself, I made an ultimatum and I said, I'm promising my future self that if in 6 months
Mhm.
I'm in the same exact situation, that I have made the decision now so I don't have to think about it in the future that I'm going to leave him. And well, 9 months went by and it was still the same. And he, there was an incident that was pretty damaging and I listened to myself and I said, "You know what? I already said I'm gonna do this." So I left him, which was pretty crazy because that was most of my adult life. Like we had started dating when I was 21. So here I was, like I think it was 31. So
Yeah.
pretty much my whole adult life.
Gosh. Well,
Yeah.
first of all, thank you so much. I feel your heart and that share, and I know there are so many people who can relate to that story. And something I heard that I think keeps a lot of people stuck is that belief that I made this commitment and no matter what happens, I need to make this work because I made this commitment. But when that's one-sided, it's hard to make something work, right? I had that same belief when I was leaving my ex-husband of, "Oh gosh, well, I made this commitment. I need to make that work." And it's not true. If you are feeling like this is no longer for you on the deep, deep levels that you were, it's you can let that go, that belief. You do not have to hold on for somebody else's, "Oh, you made this commitment, you should hold on." No, not true. So I wanna commend you deeply from the bottom of my heart for making that commitment. And, during this time, it sounds like the moment was when you made that commitment to yourself. That
Exactly.
changed everything. Yeah. I mean, was that
Yes.
just something you innately felt called to do?
I actually believed, and I still do today, that if I did not leave him, I would have ultimately committed suicide.
Mhm.
So that when I really connected those struggles that I've had to what was going on between him and I, yeah, I think it was literally like a life and death situation for me.
Absolutely. And so you did it. You came up with the courage and the strength to do the damn thing and leave him. And so from there, I would imagine you probably felt a little bit lost. You said it was most of your adult life you had been with this person. What steps did you start taking to find yourself again?
So I didn't feel like that.
What did you feel
I
like?
I think because I it's almost like I rehearsed it in the multiple times that I actually tried to leave in the past and it didn't work,
Yeah.
that I kind of was like, "Okay, I know what this is like." And so it was like I had a whole new energy about myself. It was just so oppressive to be in that relationship and the things that this person was doing to me. Like I felt like I could breathe for the first time in a long time. So, um
Okay.
and actually, like, I met him in college, and I was such a nerd and trying so hard in school that I never really had hobbies. And so I came out of that and I started kind of like experimenting with hobbies, like what do I actually want to do? Like I have all this time and like so I ended up becoming a plant lady.
Yes.
Yes. And then I kind of once again like let listen to myself and let what was going on in the universe like speak to me, and a basically a puppy like needed a home from a extended family, and they reached out to me and I ended up falling in love with him, and still to this day he's like the man that has my heart.
Yes.
So but he I don't think if I hadn't got Carlos, I wouldn't have done my trip, which I think that, just traveling alone as a woman and having the mental health problems that I had and knowing that I wouldn't have access to anybody or like, anything in the remote areas that I was going, I think that Carlos really, like, made it possible, so
Yeah, absolutely. So you left this relationship. You're feeling empowered as fuck, not like,
mm,
oh no, what do I do? You're like, what can I do? Oh my gosh, all the freedom. I feel this power. I made that decision. Who even am I? And then after you did that, how long was it before you decided to say, you know what? I'm quitting my job too. I'm really going to go find myself.
so I think it was between 2 and 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so I, had this like uplift of my situation, my mental health and everything, but I was still struggling with my mental health. And big part of that, I realized it was kind of like, okay, where's this coming from? It's easier for me to tell now. Like, and it was very clear that it was my job. Like I love being an engineer and I'm just such a nerd that it really fulfills me at work to have the relationships with people that I do and be able to still have like the nerd part. So, but the place that I was working was not a healthy one.
Mhm.
I was like, working a lot. I basically was on call constantly, having to come out to the plant like any hour of the night, working weekend duties and taking on, like, way too much responsibility for the role that I was in and just doom and gloom. And I ended up having to take another leave, due to my mental health. And in that leave, I was in a day program, and I made another commitment to myself, which was, okay, this job is making me not want to live. And if it ever does that again, like, I am going to leave. And so about 4 months went by, and I found myself telling my work friends, "Oh, I'm gonna do this van life thing," and it was like something I brought up because I had this idea in my head. You want to do this thing, and then like a lot of people just don't actually do the thing, right? And
Yes.
so my friend Justin called me out, and he's like, You're not actually gonna do that. Like, I wish you would stop saying that because you're just gonna stay here and be miserable, and you know it." And it made me so mad, so then I went home the next day, put in my 2 weeks.
That was that little push you needed. You're like, "Oh,
Yeah,
you don't think I'm gonna do this? Watch me."
yeah, and I told him, and he was like, "No, you didn't," and I was like, "I'll forward you the email."
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah, people, which people are like, "Yeah, I can't wait till I retire," and it's like,
Uh-huh.
have you tried just quitting your job? Like, it's pretty glorious to just, like, straight up quit, and,
Sure is.
very freeing moment, right? But I did not have a plan, like, a solid plan at the moment of, like, what I was gonna do, and I was like, I'm gonna do the van life, but, like, I don't know how this is gonna work out." So basically, that's how I kinda just ripped the Band-Aid off, and I already had it in my head that I made this decision and that I was gonna go with it, and, um, so, yeah, from there, I spent the next few months, outfitting a Chevy Suburban to live in. So, and then I did the thing. Yeah.
That's incredible. So once again, this is such a beautiful thread through all of your stories. Once again, your big decisions came from you setting an intention with yourself of I'm going to do this. It's like a line drawn in the sand. Decision is made. I don't know how, I don't know when, I don't know what it's going to take to get me there, but I'm making this commitment to myself and we're doing the damn thing. So, at this I've got a side question for you later about your spirituality now and how this all intertwines. But so now we're at the second pivotal moment in your life. You're divorced. You just quit your job. That was also a very long relationship. 11 years is a long time to work
Yeah.
somewhere. And you're done with that. Now you're feeling even more empowered, more freedom. What happened to you on life on the road? What transpired out in nature?
Eh, I almost don't have the words. So, I guess the one sentence to sum it up is that I found a peace that I didn't even know was possible. Like,
Mhm.
it it was incredible. Like, it's one of the best decisions I've ever made in my entire life. Like, what happened on the road, there was the day-to-day stuff of, like, I had to figure out where we were going and what we were gonna do and stumble upon things, and then, plans don't go right, and you don't have service, and, like, all these, you know,
Mhm.
typical nomadic life,
Mhm.
uh, issues, but, a lot of it was, like, just hiking and talking to people that, well, of all different walks of life, meeting them, and, um, being by myself. Like, a lot of people, I think, struggle with that, and I have at some points in my life, and I think I really got comfortable with myself. I think that I did a lot of nature baths.
Mhm.
Um, I had these pure joy moments, and I kept calling them this is the term that I have for them, where it's just I'm just me and my dog, and there's nobody there's no influence from anything, and I'm just in nature soaking it in. It was incredible.
I know there really is nothing like just being out in the wilderness by yourself, surrounded by vast nature, and just tapping into like the infinite wisdom and energy that you feel from being out there. So I can definitely relate to that. And through this journey, I'm just curious right now, like from what you've been through, if you could just speak to the listeners, if there's somebody out there who is wanting to divorce their partner or who is wanting to quit their job or who is struggling with some mental health, what advice would you give them to make a commitment with their self to change?
I would say that, like I've kinda talked about, and you can call them. You don't have to call them ultimatums, but, uh, challenging yourself or having due dates, like,
Mm,
that really did help me, and I think once you make the decision, don't go back. So, if you've thought it through or have this feeling and know, like, whatever this is, it's not gonna be this. Like, even if that's all you know is, like, this is not it, um, do the next step, rip the Band-Aid off. Like, it's the anytime, like, if I'm standing up at a cliff, which I did this a lot, like, to jump into a body of water, did this a lot on my trip. The longer that I stood there looking down, the less likely I was to actually jump off. Like, so, but if I just got up there and I said, "Yep, I'm jumping off," and I would just jump, and like I wasted all this time. So
mhm.
I think in life we sometimes do that, and I certainly had, especially with leaving my ex. So I would say, thinking ahead, having like a plan of like a due date,
Mhm.
and sticking to it and not talking yourself out of it.
Absolutely. Just do the damn thing, which is a lot of times much easier said than done. But, that's why we share our stories. And that's why you can be like, okay, I can tap into a bit of courage and I can do this too. And with the mental health, and say somebody who's really struggling right now, they're not seeing how they're going to come up from this. Um, they're really in the depths of feeling that struggle. What advice would you have for them of there is light at the end of the tunnel?
I would say that yes, like life can be rough, and you can not want to be here with like every bone in your body, but it won't always last that way. Like it won't last that long. It will at some point not be as bad. You will at some point once again like have like a desire to be alive and to live your life and have pleasurable moments and goals and things like that. There's still so much life ahead of you. I think if you're someone like me that struggles, I sometimes like to think back to a time when I thought like I might do this, and then to just think of like all the life that I've lived since then and to know that is going to happen again. So I think
Mhm.
just knowing the brevity of life and that like nothing lasts forever, including the bad times.
Absolutely. And I love this idea of looking back on where you've already been and what you've gone through and the life that you've lived up until this point and finding the power in that versus putting yourself so far in the future that you don't know how you're going to get there, which then induces anxiety and a little bit of doubt of can I do this? So instead of looking so far into the future, look back at yourself and where you've come and find that power. That's such a beautiful tool for people to utilize.
And I think too, one thing I'd like to add is the being in the present. So a lot of the time when you're feeling like shit, like, it the actual moment right now is not that bad. Like,
Mhm.
if you're laying on the couch, like, you could find, okay, what is just something in the next 30 seconds? So, like, at times I wouldn't even be able to really, like, get out of bed, but I learned that I could watch this YouTube about, like, doing little exercises in bed. It was not even for bed, it was for, like, the elderly trying to get exercise from sitting in a chair. So, but, like, I would watch it and it would, like, what I did something. I did it. I even if
Mhm.
I was like, "I don't wanna do this stupid thing," like, but if I did something, like, "Okay, now what?" You know? Like, what's the next thing? You could just be living in that moment and not like, yes, I'm in a shitty situation, like I lost my job or whatever is happening. You do have a choice in that moment. And like if you look at the end of your life, like how do you want to respond to these times? I think that you will come back and say, I'm glad that I stuck with myself and I I climbed that mountain.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. For myself, I'm one of the people who I put myself too far in the future and then compare myself to where I'm not at. And coming back to the present moment has helped me drastically reduce the anxiety that comes from that. And something I learned was to come back to the moment, to just put your hand on your heart and just say, I'm all right. I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm okay in the moment. And you realize, okay, in this moment, I actually am fine when I'm not putting myself too far in the future and comparing myself to where I'm not. And I'm not thinking of all of the things in my past and maybe potentially getting depressed on, whatever happened back there. In this moment, right now, I'm okay. And then from there, from that neutral place, then starting to come up with like, what decision is it that I want to make for myself? Where do I want to go? That's something that's really helped me a lot too. And it reminds me of this story I heard, and I'm probably gonna botch it, but it was this man who had, I believe, fallen down a mountain or inside of a glacier, and he had broken his legs. He had lost, his group that he was traveling with, and in order to get back to his camp, he couldn't walk, and instead of just laying there and giving up, he had a watch, and he would look at the time and be like, "Okay, I'm going to crawl for 30 minutes," and he would do that. 30 minutes, he would crawl. He made it further than he thought, and he was like, "Okay, I can do that for 30 minutes. I can do it again." And so those little tiny baby steps actually are what saved his life, so I'm very glad we brought that into this conversation. And so I I'm curious if you realized this pattern in your life and then you're like, "Wait a second, if I can do this, then what else can do?" And did you feel that your confidence was getting bigger and bigger in the decisions that you were making for yourself? You felt that you could accomplish them?
Definitely. So, I think part of and what built my confidence even before I, left my husband was I started working out and, like, I felt strong and I proved to myself that I could do these things or, I kept these look at these plants, like, I kept all these plants alive. And so, all these, like, small things that it seems like kind of pointless sometimes that people do that that's your passion. And I think you just by doing something like you build confidence. So yeah, but definitely making the big moves like it definitely builds your confidence and
Mhm.
listening to yourself and knowing that it doesn't matter what happens in the future, I'll figure it out. Like part of my spirituality is involves, like, the theory of oneness, and, I can tie that back, in a very nerdy way
Do
to
it.
the atoms, okay, but so why I thought of this, what kinda led me to this, statement here is, people I do find, um, I'm the closest to the God of the world when I felt this oneness, and part of the ways that I have that happen is through hallucinogenics, and so I've had see people like it's probably pretty controversial for someone with bipolar disorder to do hallucinogenics, but um they're like, "What if you have a bad trip?" And I'm like, "Oh, I feel like my life has been one." So like like I'll figure it out. Like it won't last forever, right? Um so my spirituality. When I was in college, I worked in a research lab, and I was working in nanoparticles for alternative energy. And so I was making these, little cute nanocubes, and we would go into the lab and do this certain analysis where it was basically shining electromagnetic beams, and I could actually see the individual atoms of molecules, which is like it was like the most awing experience I had had at that point in my life. And, um, so I had to be quiet in that room because if I spoke, the vibrations from my voice would make the image unclear, and actually, because it was exciting everything around it, which is pretty incredible to think about, like, me speaking to this, like, tiny, like, bit of matter right there, like, yeah, so this kind of, like, thing kept repeating in my life. So then I I will explain to you what, resonance frequency is. So, have you heard of it?
Yes, but speak it
Okay.
for the people
Alright,
listening for
yeah.
sure.
So, basically, there's sound waves that if either at a certain frequency, everything has a natural frequency that matter receives energy very freely. And so you can think of like resonance frequency when a singer sings and breaks a glass. That is the glasses that she just reached the resonance frequency of the glass, right? So actually MRIs like work off the same principle. So there's resonance frequency in everything. And I ended up having a project at work where we were having like pH excursions from a body of water, and it was because of algae. The algae made the pH high. So I use these devices that match the resonance frequency of the actual algae cells themselves and burst them. And so we didn't have that problem anymore. They didn't harm anything else around them because it's only specific to those cells. So fast forward to now. Um, did you know that there's like a lot of research in the medical field about like using sound, like different frequencies to actually kill cancer cells?
So I knew that with tumors. I am very into sound healing, and I remember seeing this video of them using frequencies, so different sound frequencies to literally shrink a tumor inside of a woman's stomach. And that for me, like when you saw that Adam and you're like, my voice was gonna speak and interrupt this, I saw that video and I was like, whoa.
Yeah, pretty incredible. So, and string theory, so this, like I said, stop me if I get
Oh
too
no.
into the weeds.
Let's get nerdy with it. I'm loving this conversation.
Okay, so in string theory, which a lot of people have heard of, but what it actually is just saying that in quantum mechanics, which is like the very smallest subatomic particles, you have one like line, basically one string, like a guitar string, and it's just vibrating at different ways, and that is what makes the different subatomic particles. And so stacked on top of each other, everything in the universe is really just vibrations. So it comes down to like the resonance frequency, or there's did you know the earth has its own resonance frequency?
Tell us more.
So so it's called the Schumann resonance. And there's a institute that actually measured the collective emotional state of humans because we also have our own electromagnetic magnetic fields. And when like, a major event on the earth happened, it would actually change the resonance frequency of earth itself. So pretty
Which then in
incredible.
turn would when the Earth's frequency is changed by a major event, would that then in turn affect each person's
Absolutely.
resonance? Yeah.
Yes. So there's also it's called the Heart Math Institute, and um they spent a lot of research in looking at like heart rate variability.
Mhm.
So basically they found that if you are having like bad thoughts will make your heart rate more erratic and or your heart rate variability more erratic, and having good thoughts and even to meditating have like all these health benefits that are pretty incredible, and that we emit about 6 to 10 feet from us electromagnetic fields. So literally when you walk and you say, oh, I don't have good vibes, like that's like uh, been basically scientifically proven that
Mhm.
that's a real thing. So, I think that that kind of when I had a lot of time at night on my trip, it's just sitting in my car, right, uh, and no service, just like thinking about all these things, and I begin to make all these connections because the oneness that I talked about with hallucinogenics is actually more and more every day being proven to be pretty much real. So, um, I get really excited talking about this, but, I used to think that, like, when people ask me what my religion was, I was like, "Oh, maybe it's more like animism," which is like, uh, basically each like, a mountain itself can have its own personhood or, like, being and autonomy, but I think that more and more it's more like the Gaia, the earth is being in and of itself, and we're part of it. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
This so I can nerd out about this forever too. I've I've had some experiences on hallucinogenics where I felt this back in the day, and now I can just tap into meditation and feel it just sitting outside on a rock. So, what's fascinating to me is the progression of your story mixed with this super scientific background you have, and how a lot of this actually are the same principles of, manifestation and making a strong intention and then taking action. And you did all of that. And I'm curious, when you were making these decisions, is that something you were already aware of, or did this just kind of happen naturally for you?
It just happened. Like,
Yeah.
and it's crazy because I've the last couple years have been realizing, like, this is all adding up. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Oh, so incredible. So we are coming up on time, but this is I I feel like we need to have a whole episode just talking about the frequencies, and that could be a whole fun topic. But for this, I'd love for you to just share, any final thoughts you have for people listening who maybe they're curious in what we were just talking about, how can they start dabbling into the world of energetics, or just any final thoughts you have.
I would say that whatever it is, do the thing, that vibrations are life, that you should notice and cultivate good vibrations around you and in you. So, um, and rip the Band-Aid off.
Actually, real quick, just one follow-up. When you say cultivate good vibrations, coming from somebody who I think has felt the depths of very low vibrations to building yourself back up and feeling the difference of, okay, now I am creating good vibrations in this energy, this auric field around me. Do you have any tips or tools that you used yourself to kind of raise your vibrations that might help people?
Yeah, so I s so specifically, like, mental health wise, I highly recommend DBT therapy. Well, I think it's, like, dialectical behavioral therapy, so not the other therapy at the end, but, um, it's has a lot like, a whole sect of it is just mindfulness, and so I think even just, like, learning mindfulness practices, and then, I I would also say, like, doing something making a 2% better change. So, like, a lot of the time, like, I don't feel like I can do all this, like, well, like, "Oh, it's easy for this girl to talk about this, like, trip that she just had all across the US," but, like, here I am and I feel like shit, and, like but you can do something that makes your life 2% better at the moment, right? Whether it's, like, get up and brush your teeth or, like so I would say 2% better is, like, a, um, motto to have as well. And then something else, like, sorry, I feel like this is a longer response, but,
Great.
um, so for me specifically, like with bipolar disorder, it actually has like a really high suicide rate, so it's like 20%. Um, and having these moments where or these time periods where basically my life is just taken a like over and I kind of like learned that I wanna do the fun things now, like, whenever I am feeling good, I want to, like, take advantage of that moment, and so it kinda, like I f it made it more likely for me to live in the present. So I guess, like, what I'm saying is, if you have struggles like that, that it's not always a bad thing, and that you do get a very unique look at life, and it does have, like, some positives to it. So,
Hmm. I love that. Thank you so much. Well, everyone, I hope you saw a bit of yourself in Crystal's story and you found a bit of inspiration, maybe a bit of curiosity to look into some of the things we've mentioned, or maybe just, you have this moment where you're like, it's my time to draw the line in the sand. I'm making a damn decision and I'm going to do something about it. Is there anything else you'd like to say, Crystal, before we wrap up?
do it.
Do it, do it, do it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Oh